Welcome to the Encore Audio Archives YouTube channel. I'm Taper Dave, and this is my channel. I've uploaded hundreds of talks here that I've recorded at meetings in West LA, and I've also recorded conventions starting in 2013. I've got a bunch of those up. And Walt and Mary Murray, the original owners of Encore Audio Archives, started the company in the 80s, and Walt recorded Joe and Charlie's and a bunch of stuff down in Vista, California. My sobriety date is June 20th of 1994. I hope you find something you like, so please like and subscribe to my channel and comment down below. If you want to hear something that I don't have or that you don't see, I'll see that I get it. Anyways, take care and have a great day if you want to.
Hello, everybody. My name is Doug Rowell, and I am a grateful alcoholic. Grateful to be an alcoholic. I say that just to piss off the newcomers. The fact is, at this point in my life, I have reason to believe that my life is better today because I'm an alcoholic than it would be if I weren't an alcoholic. But I'm sober a while. I should say that through the program of Alcoholics Anonymous, the 12 steps, and a loving God, it's not been necessary for me to take a drink or any mind-altering chemical since my very first meeting of AA, September 26, 1986. But necessary or not, I drank on the way home from that meeting. I didn't know it wasn't necessary. It seemed like a good idea at the time. Actually, actually, my real sobriety date is June 7th, 1987. Sometimes I like to go into a litany of. I had several sobriety dates. Most of them I were really good, except I forgot to not drink. But June 7th, 1987 is my actual sobriety date. So I'm about 18 and a half years sober, and like to get the half in, in case you ever get a pension program going here, I'm going to get all my time. And I want to thank Kevin for inviting me to do this, and Scott, and all the people that had to do with this convention. And, I'm fortunate enough, I get invited to do this with some frequency, and a lot of times it's like in some other state where nobody knows me, and I can just about say anything I want, Fran knows me from when I got sober. Ted knows me from before I got sober. My girlfriend is here, and her sister from out of town, and people from my home group, and people that I sponsor, and it's just like my twin sister Montana's here, and I pretty much have to tell the straight tea tonight, which is it's okay. I remember the first meeting that I went to, first meeting out of captivity. It seems like somebody may have dragged me to a meeting before that. I think that did happen. But when I was like out and I could go to a meeting or not go to a meeting, and I had gas in my car and money in my pocket, and somebody had recommended to me that the Valley Presbyterian Hospital in Van Nuys on a Friday night had a good speaker meeting, and I went over there to see what a good speaker meeting was. And they said, so there's a lot of people there, and nobody will bother you very much, and and so you don't have to talk if you don't want to. Okay, great. So I went over to that meeting, and they lied to me. People bothered the hell out of me over there. Some people that didn't even talk to me bothered me. They were all hugging and laughing, and 200 people, it seemed like everybody was hugging and laughing, saying, "Isn't it good we're not drinking?" It's like, ooh, ooh. I hope I don't catch alcoholism here. I didn't sit down at that meeting. I kind of had an intuition that if I sat down, you would think I was joining up, and I didn't want to give you that impression at all. I stood in the back of the room. I leaned against the wall in the back of the room. I had this kind of don't bother me look, you know. I figured maybe people would leave me alone, but you don't do that. You don't do that. People have bother the newcomer commitments, you know, and people will come up to me and say, "Hey, you're new." Yeah. "Welcome." Put out their hand, you know, "Keep coming back." So 3 or 4 people came up and said, "You're new, keep coming back." And I was thinking, I thought they saw my potential or something, you know. I didn't know you said that to everybody. If you're new and you don't know that, let me tell you, that's what they say. Keep coming back. In fact, if you're new in AA, you very well may. It wouldn't surprise me if you have some pretty darn good ideas about how to improve AA. And if you do, corner Ted down here after the meeting. Get it, because he's really interested to know about new ideas about how to improve AA. And chances are Ted will smile and say, "Keep coming back." That's what we do here. But, people tell me keep coming back. I mean, there was one lady that... And see, I wasn't the only one leaning against the wall. There was another guy leaning against the wall on the other side of the door. We were so cool, we didn't even talk to each other, you know. We were like, "Hey, man," you know, and we were the whole cool section at that meeting. And so I was there, and this one woman came up and she said, "You're new, aren't you?" I said, "Yeah." "Keep coming back. You want to sit down, there's some chairs right over there, some empty chairs right over there, right in the middle of the thing." And I said, "Lady, I don't want to sit down. If I wanted to sit down, I'd be sitting down. I'd probably be sitting right in those empty chairs over there. I didn't come here to sit down. I didn't come here to get sober." You know, the thing is, I'm not a joiner, all right? I see all you people are the hugging and laughing kind of, "Isn't it good we're not drinking" kind of alcoholics. I'm some other kind of alcoholic. You know, I think you are evidently the kind that have to stop drinking forever. I think I'm the kind, that can have a beer on a hot day, or a glass of wine with a steak dinner, or a margarita with a Mexican meal. I mean, that's the appropriate way to drink. Sometimes it gets out of hand for me. In fact, sometimes I just like to chug down a fifth of vodka and go have an inappropriate experience. But I didn't come here to join up, all right? I came to see what's going on here. Maybe I can get the gist of what you do here to stop drinking always, and I can apply it to my sometimes not drinking so much thing. In fact, I never fit any place in my life, lady, so I'm surely not going to fit in AA. I didn't fit in school. I didn't fit in the workplace. I didn't fit in my own damn family. Lady, I'm sure as hell not going to fit with "Isn't it good we're not drinking?" You know what I mean? Because, I'm a loner. I'm an outlaw. I'm a desperado. I'm a misfit, lady. If I sat in those empty chairs over there, I'm not staying through the whole meeting. I'll get bored. I'll get up, knock over chairs, step on people's feet. I'm going to be knocking things over, getting out. You want me to interrupt your meeting? Actually, it's a courtesy that I'm allowing you by standing back here by myself, minding my own business. You might try it sometime. She said, "Okay." Can you kind of keep it down a little bit? We're trying to have a meeting over here. Can't fluster A's, but I made myself clear, and I nodded to the other cool guy. I was pretty sure he was impressed with my performance. So I'm leaning back there, and some things happened. I didn't know that. I had some friends who had gotten sober in AA, and that was the main attraction to me. Actually, I mentioned Ted a couple of times. Ted and one other guy on the crew of the General Hospital's technical crew. I was the prop man on that show for a few years, or a prop man on that show, and Ted was a technical advisor, and he ran the whole tech department, cameras and sound and all that stuff. And we would pass each other in the hall. After I got sober, I ran into Ted and said, "Hey, I think I know you. Did you work on General Hospital?" He said, "Yeah, you're Doug, the guy in the black hat. See him for cocaine." And so I all right, yeah, I thought you were that guy, yeah. But Ted was sober a long time then, and this other guy that was on the grip crew was sober a long time. So I knew to stay out of their way. Then, I don't really, but I knew, I knew some friends who I drank and used with that got sober in AA also. So I knew a little bit about AA, but not very much. For instance, I didn't know that you had birthdays. And so when the secretary at that first meeting said, "We have a birthday tonight," it's like, a birthday? What does that have to do with drinking? "We have a birthday tonight for Ruth for 18 years. And everybody say, "Hey, Ruth!" Everybody say, "Hey, Ruth!" And it's like, where's Ruth? Some 18-year-old tiny hiney. Let's see Ruth, you know. So I'm looking around for Ruth. And Ruth gets up. Man, she's 50 if she's a day. I'm not kidding. And my first thought was, God damn, if she's 18, she should stop drinking. You know. But it was strange because she didn't look bad. She looked good. You know, she looked very good. She looked damn good for 50. And she looked whipped for a teenager, you know, but I mean, so I figured out immediately, because I'm a figure-outer, I'm a quick study, you know, this woman is not 18, she is 50, this is AA, they don't drink, they're celebrating 18 years of not drinking, oh my God, it must be a national record, no wonder they're so excited about it, you know, and so then they bring out this cake, and Ruth comes up, and these three girls come out, and they're holding this big cake, and it's got all these candles flaming, and everybody starts to sing. I didn't know about that, certainly. And I'll tell you, I have a musical background, so I was just a little bit put off by 200 people singing Happy Birthday in 4 different keys. And some of them were not even committed to the original key they started in. And so, you know, I was like, whoa. Oh, man, I mean, I wanted to say, hey, people, come on, there's a piano over here, nobody's playing. Somebody get on the box, key of G, 1, 2, 3, happy. But I already made a big deal about I'm not staying, so I got no lines in this thing. I'm just, okay, it's a short song, I can handle it, you know. Looked over at the other cool guy, he doesn't mind, he's tone deaf or something. And so then Ruth gets up to the podium, and she says, "I'm Ruth, I'm an alcoholic," and everybody says, "Hi, Ruth!" I'm just going, oh my God, this is some level of lameness I never imagined existed. I'm in the lame zone, you know, it's like, holy God. And then she says, "I want you to know that over these last 18 years of sobriety, I have attended a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous every single day." And everybody, it seemed, went, oh, Ruth, she did too. And I'm in the back going, you a little slow, ain't you, Ruth? you are just not the sharpest pencil in the box, honey. You know, because I don't know how long it's going to take me to get this deal, but I know it's not going to take every day for 18 years. One of the Budinskis already told me this is a simple program for complicated people. I was like, oh, I can see you're a complicated guy. Oh boy, you know. And so, and then the secretary. It's funny. This is a speaker meeting, and I know it was a speaker meeting because I know the meeting. It's not there anymore, but it was a speaker meeting. That means that somebody got up, like I am tonight, and talked for a long time. They took up the majority of the time in the meeting. I cannot tell you if the speaker was a man or a woman, let alone what he or she said. And that's peculiar. It seems I've heard a lot of people say, "Oh, I went to the first speaker I heard was Chuck C. Or the first speaker I heard was Norm Alpy or Clancy." I have no idea who spoke. If it was a man or a woman. I remember that Ruth took a cake for 18 years. I remember that the lady said, "Keep coming back." Several people said, "Keep coming back." I remember the hugging and laughing. I remember that the secretary said, among other things that I didn't care at all about, "This is our big book." She held up this book. "This is our big book, Alcoholics Anonymous. It's the basic text of our program. It's the only authority on AA. And we want you to have this book. If you don't have it, if you're new here tonight, please don't leave without this book." So they had a table full of them. I thought, okay, I'll just steal the book, you know. You want me to have it? I got it. And on the way out, I'll pick it up and look at it. Oh, and look like I'm fascinated with it. I'll be darned. You know, I didn't know that. Walk right out the door and nobody else stopped me. And I think that would happen, except that she screwed that up. Because now, she said, If you're new tonight and you're financially embarrassed, we understand that. We've all been there. Please don't be embarrassed. We want you to have this book. We sell it at our cost, $4.65, but if you don't have the money, we'll make very liberal credit arrangements, including nothing down and nothing a week till you get back on your feet. I know she said that because I've seen it in the format since then. And that seems very loving and generous, but if you're going to steal the book, it really takes the wind out of your sails. You know, it's like, I think I'll go steal this free book, you know. And it's like, they won't think I'm a clever criminal. They'll think I'm homeless. So I can't do that. So now, like, I went up to the secretary after the meeting. I said, hey, can I buy one of those books? The big book? Yeah, the big book. How much? She goes, it's $4.65. Do you have it? Do I have $4.65? Here's a $5, lady. Keep the change. You know. Oh yeah, I'm on my feet. You know. So I took that book home, and I got home at night, and I got up my whiskey. I poured a shot of whiskey, and I started to read this book. And well, not read so much. It's kind of a thick book. It's kind of late at night, and I don't read a lot, but I'm a very gifted skimmer. So I started, you know, I can look at the title of a chapter in any book and know everything that's in the chapter. It's a gift that I have, and so I started looking through this. I got to doctor's opinion. Okay, I don't need to read doctor's opinion. I've had doctor's opinions. Boy, you ought to not drink so much. Okay, next. Chapter 1. Bill's story. Who cares? Chapter 2. Chapter 2, there's a solution. Oh man, I'm on a roll. Chapter 2, there is a solution, is a sales pitch. I was raised on television. I see a sales pitch coming a mile away. Chapter 2, there's a solution. Young man, there is a solution to your problem. The 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous will give you a life beyond your wildest drunken dreams. Chapter 3, more about alcoholism. Now that sounds fascinating. I'll get around to chapter 3 sometime. I'm just cooking through this book. Chapter 4, we agnostics. Now, that took me by surprise. I didn't expect we agnostics. And I'll tell you, there was, at that first meeting, I acted like I was pissed off at everything, but I really wasn't. I liked the people, you know, hugging and laughing. There's a couple things I didn't like. I didn't like the not drinking for extended periods. I thought that was excessive. And I didn't care for that God stuff. In fact, that took me by surprise. I expected, and I thought I had reason to expect Alcoholics Anonymous to be the secular way to get sober, the way that smart people got sober without God. I guess because my grandmother was kind of hostile to Alcoholics Anonymous. I don't think she was ever in a meeting in her life, but she was a Pentecostal minister. She had a Skid Row mission in San Pedro. If anybody knows that area, the Beacon Street down in San Pedro, there's a lot of recovery houses and places on there now, but in the 50s and 60s, Beacon Street was a nasty place to be, and people got killed there almost every night. There was all bars and hock shops and shooting galleries, and my grandmother's little White Dove mission. You know, and she would bring in these wharf rats and winos and feed them soup and Jesus, and they'd get sober on the way to the cross, you know, so I knew you could get sober on soup and Jesus. It just never seemed worth it to me. And so when I came to AA, I fully expected AA to be the secular, smart way to get sober without God, because my grandmother didn't like it. But instead, I found people talking about, oh, my higher power this, and I talked to my God this and God that, and higher power, and humbly asked Him with a capital H, and admitted to God, to ourselves, and God. And I'm like, oh man, no fair, you know. I come to the last house on the block, and it's a Sunday school. Jeez, you know. Where are the smart people? Where do they go? Do they just keep drinking? I mean, what? But here was this Alcoholics Anonymous, the only authority on AA, this book, with a chapter called We Agnostics. And I said, okay, all right, here it is. Here's how the smart people get sober without God. So I read chapter 4. I read the whole thing. I poured a shot of whiskey and I read it from beginning to end. And I got done and I thought, all right, I'm spacing out. I missed the whole smart people get sober without God thing. Poured another shot. I read chapter 4 again. I'm tenacious. And so I read chapter 4 again. And I was wishing that the cool guy was there, you know. Actually, the cool guy, I don't think he was cool. I thought he was cool because he was like me, you know. He dressed like me and he looked like me and he was leaning on the wall like me. But I'll tell you something, after Ruth took her cake, the cool guy came over to me and said, tell you what, you stay sober a year, we'll give you one of them cakes. You know, I was like, well, really? Just don't drink for a year and I get a cake. You know, and I mean, he was the only guy there I identified with. I didn't want to piss him off, so you know, I wanted to let him down. I knew he meant well, so I said to him, "Yeah, I'm not much of a pastry eater, you know. If I wanted one, I'd just, you know, stop at Safeway on the way home. I think they're like $5 or something. Or I could not drink for a year, you know." And so he left me alone. But anyway, I thought maybe he could explain this dichotomy about all these people talking about God, and there's this chapter 4, We Agnostics. So I poured a shot of whiskey and I read it a third time. I'm on my own here. Got through and I'm going, man, I am spacing out. I'm focused. Poured another shot of whiskey. I did it again 6 times. I poured a shot of whiskey and read chapter 4, and it never really changed. I was pretty sure it was going to, you know, and it just stayed right just like it was. But eventually, if you read it enough times, you'll get some of what's actually in there. And there was a sentence that caught my eye eventually. In fact, it was shocking. It said, "We found that God doesn't make too hard terms on those who seek Him." What's shocking about it is, I mean, it's not really a shocking statement. It makes sense. I'm sure the first time I read it, if I thought about it at all, I probably thought, that makes sense. You know, if there's a power that created the universe, it certainly wouldn't be egocentric enough to care how I come to it. But I didn't really think about it until after reading it 5 or 6 times. And we found that God doesn't make too hard terms on those who seek Him. I never heard that about God. Anybody who ever talked to me about God, it seemed to me, indicated that God makes very hard terms, and they're different terms at different places. And that's why I was openly hostile. That's one of the reasons I was openly hostile to organized religion when I got here. I didn't want to hear anything about God. My grandmother's Pentecostal church, they seemed like they never said, "We don't think God makes hard terms." You know, if anything, they said, "Dude," they said my name in less than a syllable. "Dude, we're very sure that God makes hard terms on those who seek Him. Boy, you know God will not even hear your prayers unless you are baptized." And I don't mean sprinkled on the forehead like some Methodist. I'm talking about total submission, son. That's why we got this tank of water for Christ up here. Come on up here, boy. We'll soak you down, pull you up, washed in the blood of the Lamb. Praise Jesus. Oh, man, somebody get the boy a towel. And, you know, I was just like, oh my goodness. You know, it scared me. You know, I was like, well, I got new jeans on. Otherwise, I'd jump right in your Jesus tank, you know. But new jeans, and they shrink to fit, you know. I pretty much came down for the music, Grandma, you know, and let's make a joyful noise. But it wasn't just the Pentecostals. I mean, if it was, you go, okay, the Pentecostals are over the top. But no. How about the Catholics? My girlfriend was a Catholic. She had to go to communion, confession, confirmation, a bunch of other cons, so she could learn How many Hail Marys and Our Fathers were required to cleanse your soul of the various kinds of sins? The Catholics, when I say various kinds of sins, they got them categorized, venial and menial and cardinal and mortal, and some of them you don't even have to do them. If you think about them, expressway to hell, partner. It's like, whoa, that's serious stuff, you know. Unless you cleanse your soul and do all this stuff, jump through these Catholic. I would stand when they knelt and kneel when they stand. I'm not going anymore, you know. But Julie liked doing all that stuff. Her whole family did, and it was cool with them. But she would cleanse her soul. She still couldn't talk to God. No kidding. I mean, you know what they do? They talk to God's mom. Hello, Mrs. God, it's Julie. No, don't wake him. Tell him I love him. Okay, bye. I never understood that. My friend Michael was an Orthodox Jew. And Orthodox Jews, they had a warm home. They had a really nice, safe place to go. We liked going over to Michael's house because it was a safe, warm place. You felt loved in there, and at least safe, you know. But they dressed funny and they ate funny, so we made fun of them. Mrs. Rothberg would act like you go over to visit. She'd act like she'd been waiting all week for you. Doug, welcome to our home. It's an honor to have you. Would you like to join us in some wine and holla? Some what? Would you like to join us in some wine and holla? I go, well, I'll have some wine. I'm not much of a pastry eater, you know. Michael and I went out. This was the final straw. Michael and I went out for lunch, and we sat at this little cafe. And the waitress comes up and he said, "I'll have the BLT. Hold the bacon." I said, "Mike, that's the B in the BLT. That's the only meat in the sandwich, man. You just ordered a salad on toast. You know, what's up with that?" And he said, "Well, to consume the flesh of the cloven-hoofed animal that cheweth not its cud is to offend he whose name cannot be uttered." What? Run that by me again. That was American. That wasn't even Yiddish. I didn't understand a damn word. I didn't understand what you said. You said pork. Okay, I can't eat pork. That's all. I can't eat pork. So why not? It will offend he whose name cannot be uttered. Who's that? Can't say his name. Jesus Christ, man. No, but you're close. He said, I was like, oh. And then there were Buddhists and Hindus and Muslims. Oh, my. You know, so I just said, oh. Okay, here's the deal, God. I'll put all the religions of the world on that side of the line. I'll stay over here and make fun of them all. You know, I'm an equal opportunity skeptic. And that's how I came to AA. But here was this chapter 4, the only authority on AA, saying, we found that God doesn't make too hard terms on those who seek Him. And it goes on to say, you don't have to accept anybody's concept of God. Choose one that you're comfortable with. Not even one you think God is comfortable with. Choose one that you're comfortable with, and that seems to be fine. That seems to be okay with God. Well, that's pretty hard to argue with, you know. Choose one that you're comfortable with, and that's okay. All right, that's comfortable. And then, so I didn't have an epiphany when I read that, nor did I when I read this other. I love this other line that says that in chapter 4 also, to be doomed to an alcoholic death or to live life on a spiritual basis are not easy alternatives to face. Well, now see, that's because we're alcoholics. It turns out that non-alcoholics think this is kind of a no-brainer. You know, I mean, to be doomed to an alcoholic death or to live life on a spiritual basis are not easy alternatives to face. And we go, yeah, that's right. You can test this one. You can test this one. Get yourself a clipboard and go and stand in front of the gate at Magic Mountain and stop people when they're coming in, you know, or going out. Excuse me, I'm taking a survey. Would you rather die an alcoholic death or live a spiritual life? You know, and it may surprise you where the Earth people go with this. You know, they almost never have a problem. They might say, "Are we on candid camera?" I'll take the spiritual deal. You know, a very inquisitive normie might say something like, "Okay, when you say alcoholic death, are you really talking about where you puff up and turn yellow and choke to death on your own blood and vomit and bile?" Yeah. You make it sound bad. You know. Only alcoholics, you know. If you do this Magic Mountain Gate test, you'll know if you run into one of us, you know, because it'll be, "Excuse me, I'm taking a survey, alcoholic death, spiritual life." If you get this, you're going to be here tomorrow, you know. So, I tell you, this thing looked interesting. There was something here that I had never seen before. And so I went back to AA. I started going to AA regularly. I didn't have a home group. I went to a lot of meetings around different places around the valley and Hollywood, because I didn't really want anybody to get to know me, but I was kind of interested in this AA thing. I certainly didn't have a sponsor. I didn't want anybody telling me what to do. I didn't read the book. I didn't take the steps. I didn't have a commitment, and I was drinking every day. But other than that, I had a pretty good program going, and which was like, keep coming back. That's what I did. I kept coming back. One day I was sitting at a meeting at the San Fernando group, a 5:30 meeting, and I had been going there for 6-8 weeks. Anybody with less than 30 days? Doug, alcoholic. Can we see the hands of any newcomers with less than 30 days? Doug, alcoholic. Anybody in the first 30 days recovery? Doug, alcoholic. Doug, alcoholic. Doug, alcoholic. 6-8 weeks I'm doing this. And one day, I just got tired of it. It's just old, you know. I thought, hey, I was a math major, you know, so I was thinking, you're drinking every day. It's going to be a long time before you get 30 days. And so I just didn't raise my hand. It's none of their damn business, and it's embarrassing. I didn't raise my hand. I just sat there. And what happened was this gal, Crystal, was sitting at the other end of the table. I heard her say to her friend, Doug's got 30 days. And I realized what happened. I didn't mean to mislead her, but I saw what happened. I didn't raise my hand. I've been raising my hand, so she thought I had 30 days. And I didn't want to embarrass her, make her look bad, you know. So because she was on my little 13-step list, and not that I ever talked to any of these girls, but it was becoming a pretty impressive list. And in case I ever went 24 hours without drinking and I wouldn't have booze on my breath, and I could ask them out, maybe kiss them goodnight or something, you know. But I had my list, but she was on it, so I didn't want to make her look bad. So they said, anybody with 30 days want to take a chip? So I got up and took a chip. And you know what happened? They went crazy. They went, yay, Doug, all right, Doug, hey, way to go, man, you finally made it. And I was like, I haven't even stopped drinking. I'm already in service, you know. And so I went over to Chandler Lodge in North Hollywood the next morning. I took a chip over there, too. They loved it, too. Now I got a sobriety date, 30 days before my first bogus chip. And sometimes people would smell whiskey on me, or I thought they smelled it, or I thought they saw me drinking, or I'd get, embarrassed that and I'd have to change my sobriety date, but only at the meeting where they smelled me. One time I came in and I was going to take a 60-day chip over at this group, and somebody said, you smell like whiskey. Have you been drinking? And I was like, what are you going to say? No, I was doing a 12-step, and some newcomer poured whiskey all over me. God, he got it in my breath and my pores and everything. It's like, or you can just cop, and yeah, I drank. See what happens. And you know what? They love you better. It's like, put his arm around me. Hey, man, you're alive and in a meeting. Not everybody can say that. Come on in, have a seat. So then now I'm going to play it. Well, I feel like I let the group down, and let us down. You didn't let us down. You didn't even surprise us, You're an alcoholic. You drank. You know, if you want to surprise us, go get a job. And so by the time I actually got sober, I had 4 different sobriety dates at 4 different groups. And I am not in any way recommending this as a program of recovery. Most people that do this die. But it just allowed me to keep coming back. You know, I don't know. I'm not basically an honest person. And so it was kind of fun to try to stay not quite insanely drunk, you know, but lightly inebriated, and remember what my sobriety date was at different groups. I remember I went over to the Valley Club one time at noon, and in Reseda. It was the first time I'd been there. I went for a noon meeting, and I was at the coffee pot, and I hear this girl say to her friend, "My sponsor says I can't have sex till I'm sober 6 months." So I took a 6-month trip over to the Valley Club. You know, I mean, I don't know. I know what the rules are, and I don't. What if I get lucky? And then, you know, at just about the time, she says, "How long are you sober?" 6 months, baby, right here. You know, if I get lucky. I wish I had a picture to show you what I looked like when I got here. I couldn't have got lucky in a women's prison with a pocket full of pardons. You know, I was not somebody you wanted to have the dog see you with. You know, so, I mean, one night I came home from a meeting. I came home from an 8:30 meeting, got over at 10. I came home, so it must have been 10:30, 11 when I got home. I had a brand new 5th of whiskey, or a quart or something, and I laid on the floor, turned on the TV, and opened the bottle and started drinking this whiskey. And I drank it until I passed out. This was very common. I came home from most meetings this way. Woke up about 3 a.m., the bottle's half full, TV's on. I reached up and turned off the TV, got my bottle, and crawled on my hands and knees across the living room, through the bedroom, through the hallway, into the bedroom to go to bed. And this happened more often than not. You know, and some people call it pitiful and incomprehensible demoralization. I just called it going to bed. You know, it seemed to me kind of smart at the time. I remember thinking, can't fall off the floor. You know, and so I got into my bedroom. I stood up to take my clothes off, and I had the whiskey with me, no cap on. I don't know where the cap is. There's plenty of them around. But I stood up, and I lost my balance, and I fell down on my knees and spilled this whiskey all over the bed. And I picked up the bottle real quick. There's a little bit left in it, but most of it was in the bedspread. So I set that bottle in a safe place, and I grabbed that bedspread, and I started sucking whiskey out of the bedspread as hard as I could. Just, you know, now, a little voice in my head said, "Hey, man, that ain't right." You thirsty? There's whiskey in the bottle, man. I'm not thirsty. I'm frugal. I will waste my life, but I'm not the kind of guy to let whiskey evaporate in the bedspread overnight. But I looked at what I was doing, and I thought, God, it's not the worst thing I ever did drinking, but I mean, taffeta cocktail. I mean, I'm sucking whiskey out of a bedspread when there's whiskey in the bottle. I mean, I have been going to AA for 8 months, and I have not learned how to not suck whiskey out of a bedspread. Something's wrong with me. Something's wrong with me, man. Maybe I'm one of those chronic losers, you know, you see around Alano clubs all over the country. People, everybody knows them. They've been going to AA for 20 years, and they have not ever gotten 60 days of continuous sobriety. Maybe that's me. Maybe I'm that loser. Maybe my job here is to be a bad example, so people can walk by with their sponsees and go, well, you want to end up like Doug? Keep doing what you're doing. You know? Whew. Boy, that's not a comfortable thing to think about yourself, and I didn't know what to do about it. And what I did about it was a dumb thing. I said, God, if you're there, please help me. And I meant it, and I did not believe anybody was listening. I just said it, and I went to bed, and I went to sleep, and over the next couple of weeks, every day, something weird would happen. I go to my favorite liquor store. There's somebody from AA behind the counter. That can't happen. I know the people behind the counter of that liquor store. What are you doing here? What are you doing here? Now, I just came to get some smokes. Yeah, see ya, and I went somewhere else to get my booze. Didn't stop me from drinking. But I go in I was over working in Burbank. I went to a Mexican restaurant across the street. I started to order a margarita. The waitress is somebody I know from an AA meeting. I'm in the Vaughn's Market in the liquor department pushing a cart. I reach up to get a bottle. Somebody from AA is pushing a cart towards me. Hey, one day at a time. Keep it simple. Beautiful life, isn't it? And it didn't keep me from drinking. I managed to drink, but there would be these little hurdles I had to jump on a daily basis. And one day, after a couple of weeks of this, I'm on the way to work, 6:30 in the morning. I'm going to work, and I just killed a half pint of Bushmills, and I don't keep empty bottles in the car. They're illegal, and they're also useless. And I roll down the window, and I swing my arm just as I'm trying to toss it. There's a guy from AA driving towards me at 6:30 a.m. And he sees me, and he waves, and I threw a bottle out the window, Bing, bing, ding, ding, bing, ding, ding. And where are these people coming from? There's not this many sober alcoholics in Los Angeles County. It's like those stupid miracles they talk about in the meetings. Oops. Oops. I pulled the car over to the side of the road, and I sat there for a minute, and I remembered that I had been on my knees and said, God, if you're there, please help me. And I was serious. It was a sincere prayer of desperation. And I clearly had gotten the help that I asked for in a funny way. I mean, literally in a funny way. Little pain-in-the-ass God jokes, that got my attention. Admired the most has been a sense of humor. God knows that about me. I'm not even sure it's good. It's okay. Like times like this, it's good. It works for us. But, maybe a good work ethic would have served me better. I don't know. A little love and compassion, a little honesty and integrity. I don't know. But it's always been humor. God did the original wire job. He knew how to reach me. Little pain-in-the-ass God jokes that I've come to recognize as full-blown miracles in my life. And I sat there on the side of the road that morning on the way to work. And before I started up the car, I came to believe. I came to believe that a power greater than myself could restore me to sanity. Like it says like Kelly read this earlier when she read the 12 steps. And I didn't even know I was at the second step at that time. I just came to believe. All of a sudden, I went from being an atheist to a believer. And I used to think, oh man, I didn't have that educational variety of spiritual awakening. I had the Bill Wilson white light, and I did. But Bill Wilson had the educational variety first too, just like I did. It's like people going, God, 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 God. Oh, stay away from me, God, God, God. And then I go, oh God, the white light. It's my head coming out of my ass. So I still didn't want to read the book, but I would go to meetings and I would listen to people, and people quote the book at meetings. Sometimes they even get page numbers, and I got a good memory. So I figured I don't have to read the book. They quote it all the time. Eventually they'll quote the whole book, and I'll remember, and some page numbers too. And so I'm listening to people. But what I didn't know is that sometimes people misquote the book. It happens all the time. I may have done it tonight. I don't know. If I did, give me a call. 818-353-4607. I like to hear. Every once in a while I get a call. Hey, you did misquote the book. And I like to get caught in that. But most of us don't. And we almost never say after we quote the book, I'm not sure that's right. Maybe you better go look it up. But we're pretty sure we said it right. So, but this I didn't know that. But this woman said, our drinking is but a symptom of deeper underlying causes and conditions, our book says. And the book does say that. But then she went on to add her own stuff without saying, and my opinion is, so I thought she was still quoting. She said, and if you don't find your deeper underlying cause and condition, you will drink again. I said, what? What? My deeper underlying cause and condition? I don't know that I even have one. I didn't come from an alcoholic family. I know that most of the people in AA did, but I didn't. My dad was the kind of guy who would buy a 6-pack of beer and drink one and put 5 in the fridge, and they might stay in there for a week. It's not important to them. You know, I don't get that. I got nothing against refrigerators. I just don't think it should get 5 and I should get 1. And my dad, I never understood the way he'd drink. Why bother? Chuck C. used to say, I don't start a fire to put it out. You know, I get that. You know, I'm like a hunt it, kill it, skin it, roast it, eat it, crack the bones, and suck out the marrow. You know, I'm like, but my dad didn't understand the way I drank either. Now, my mother, it's a different story. My mother may be an alcoholic. I don't know. And you can't tell because she won't drink. And how would you tell? I mean, you know, character defect, I saw character, you know, I asked her once, after I got sober, I'm looking for, you know, I want to know, I'm not getting off the ship till I find out why it's sinking, you know. So I asked my mother, hey, tell me the truth, are you an alcoholic? And she said, what? I said, are you an alcoholic? She said, I don't know, maybe. Why do you want to know? I said, because there's a genetic predisposition thing that maybe that's why I'm an alcoholic. Maybe it's your fault. She said, I don't know, maybe it is. I tell you, I might be, because when I was young, I used to drink, and every time I drank, I got sick, stupid, and obnoxious, so I just quit. I said, well, okay, you got to drink through that, Mom. You know, there's, you know, there's a promised land beyond sick, stupid, and obnoxious. But she doesn't have the tenacity to make this program, you know. So I don't, you know, so I didn't come from an alcoholic family. So I don't, and I didn't start drinking until I was 18. Because I didn't come from a home there was a lot of drinking, and some of my friends drank, and they seemed like they got stupid, and I just didn't care about it. I wasn't interested in it. Nobody said, oh, man, it's going to be a lot of fun. But what happened was my friend Morris, who was my sexual sponsor in high school, said to me, okay, look, if you want to have sex with this girl, you're going to have to get her drunk. I had a girlfriend. We would go park and tat and stuff, and so I heard that, and so I went and stole a quart of Rainier Ale, which was the national beverage of Garden Grove, where I grew up, and I stole this quart of Rainier Ale, and we went and parked, and we had been parking in this spot for a while, but this night I got my ammunition. And see, I didn't care about drinking. I was not at all interested in it. I would have been happy to say, drink this. Let me know when you're ready, you know. But I knew it was rude. It seemed like it would be rude. So I opened it, and I took a little hit, and I gave it to her, and she took a little swallow, and we passed it back and forth and kissed a little bit, and we both got a little high. And that's the first time I got high. And I liked it. And I think it's the first time she got high. And she seemed to like it, too, because Morris was right. It was the first time I got drunk, and the first time I ever had sex in front of a witness. You know, so I was like, hey... yeah, man, I'm going to do both of these things as much as I can the rest of my life, you know. So I mean, I didn't have a drink till I was 18. I didn't come from an alcoholic family. It seemed like I started pretty regular. I don't know what my deeper underlying cause and condition was. I wanted to get laid, I did, and then I wanted to get drunk, you know. And so I'm looking back over my life desperately trying to find this deeper underlying cause and condition, and I thought, of course. When I was 24 years old, I moved from Orange County up to Hollywood to try to make my living having a life in the music business. And I was go up there, I was like play a guitar on somebody's album, or I'd sing on somebody's album, or play a little harmonica, write a song with somebody. I was kind of getting into the music business a little bit, and then I went to see a show called Hair. And it was, it was playing at the Aquarius Theater. It was all about hippies. I was one. And it was like, it was my show, you know. It was like hippies singing and dancing and drugs, sex, and rock and roll. And I went to see it. I was blown away by it. I thought, there was a character named Berger that came and swung on a rope and screamed rock and roll songs. And he was like this long-haired freak and stripped down to a loincloth and went out in the audience and made fun of people. He was like this sex-crazed, drug addict, freaky leader of the tribe, you know. And I was like, oh, I could do that. And so I called him the next day of the Aquarius Theater. I said, hey, I'd like to be in your show. And like today, if you did that, they'd say, well, have your agent call us, you know, and we'll make, you know. But in 1969, they didn't do that. They said, what's your name? I told them, and they said, what are you doing Friday at 1 o'clock? I said, you tell me. Come on down to the Aquarius. You got an audition. Cool. Bring sheet music. All righty. So Friday morning, I got my guitar out. I'm so excited. I'm going to go audition for Hair. And I got my sheet music, and I'm playing the song I'm going to sing, and I broke a string on my guitar. You know, hippies were like, oh, bad karma, dude. You know, so I went in my roommate's room to see if he had the string that I needed, the D string, and it was in its envelope in the middle of his dresser by itself. I said, good karma, dude. Picked up that little envelope, and underneath it there was a little white capsule, which I thought, wonder what that is. Oh, because we didn't have, you know, we didn't have a PDR. I mean, you pretty much had to swallow test everything, and it's an excellent way to test. Forget about heavy machinery and driving and things like swallow it. If you live, you'll know what it does. And if somebody dies, you go, don't eat the green shit, you know. It turned out this was THC, synthetic marijuana, and a nice little psychedelic, by the way, a very nice little psychedelic. So by the 45 minutes later, when I got down to the Aquarius Theater to do my audition, I was floating. Woo! Yeah, and my hair was long over my shoulders. It just swished when I walked, you know, and my balls of my feet tickled me when I walked, and walked up those stairs into the Aquarius, and I had these bell-bottom pants on, bells about this big, hip huggers, you know, no shirt on, just a vest with 6 layers of foot-long red, white, and blue leather fringe. Woo! I was a walking wind chime, you know, and I walked in there, my sheet music, and I stood around watching people audition, and I heard him say, Doug Rowell here? I said, yeah, right here. He said, come on up. So I went up on stage, and I handed my music to the piano player, and he opened it, big smile, he winks at me, and he started to play. Bum, 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 bum. I said, wow, I feel good. Ba-dum, ba-dum. Went into this James Brown number. I thought I was the godfather of soul. And I was all over that stage. I was down on one knee. Wow, I feel nice. Sugar and spice, you know. I finished it, and the people who were down there judging are going, yeah, and they're nudging each other. This kid, we love your energy, man. Great. Can you do something a little mellower for us so we can get a range? Sure. I didn't expect that, but I went into a cappella version of Otis Redding's Dock of the Bay. And the piano player picked it up and fell right in with me. We were in the pocket, man. I could do no wrong, you know. Made myself cry. Great. We got to see a dance. I don't know anything about dancing. You know? I know it's a dancing show. It's a Broadway show, but I never danced. But they want to see it play, you know. So the guy starts playing, and I start moving, you know, and I see my hair coming around. I see these trails and the fringe on this vest. Pow, pow. And I'm like this ball of trails, you know. I'm having and somebody said, Jesus, can he dance? Alcohol and drugs doing for us what we can't do for ourselves, you know. And so they hired me to go to Las Vegas. I thought I was going to play in L.A. They hired me to go to Las Vegas to understudy the role of Berger, the obnoxious speed freak, sex-crazed leader of the tribe. I told them I could do it. And so I went to Vegas, and I understudied for a while. Then they closed the Vegas show, and they gave me that part to play, the lead role. And we went on the road. And we toured the United States and Canada for 3 years. And people would come up to us on stage afterwards and go, God, you're beautiful, man. Have some pot, brother. Send some me and Maui Wowie, Panama Gold, Acapulco. You know, it's like, well, okay, you know, I'd take all this stuff. Somebody said, you like acid, man? Here, window pane, sunshine, Osley, purple haze, window pane, you know, and we leave with hands full of free dope, but some girl would come up and go, oh, God, I love you. Take me. I would go, okay. You know, so it was like sex, drugs, and rock and roll, and traveling around the country and getting paid for it. This was a good job I had. And I knew it was a good job when I had it, you know. But I looked back at it in my newfound sobriety, And all of a sudden, I mean, I was heartbroken. I realized how I had been victimized, and I'd been taken advantage of. I mean, they made a drug addict out of me. Ended up being an alcoholic. I had to come to AA to save my life. I called my sponsor. I said, I found it. Oh, what'd you find now, Doug? I said, Jim Sass. I said, my deeper underlying cause and condition. Oh, let's hear that. I said, let's hear that one. Hair? Your hair? Well, maybe if we cut your hair off, you can stay sober. Not my hair. Not my hair. Remember I told you I was in a show called Hair. I was a big star, traveled around the country and everything. Oh, yeah, I forgot about the big star deal. Yeah. He said, but I thought you were loaded when you auditioned for that show. I had told him entirely too much. And I said, yeah. He said, let me tell you something. Most people, earth people, non-alcoholics, when they go to interview for a job they really want, won't take a drug they can't identify. Okay, all right, I believe that makes sense. But then I don't know what my deeper underlying cause and condition is. Maybe I'll get drunk. He said, maybe you will. If you swallow some alcohol, you no doubtedly will. Don't swallow any alcohol. I want you to go to a meeting tomorrow. Call me tomorrow. And I want you to start reading that book. Read the book. I want you to start reading the book every day. If you can't read a chapter, read a page. If you can't read a page, read a paragraph. You got the rest of your life to recover, but you got to stay on top of it. Oh, man. That's the best advice I ever got in AA. I've gotten incredible advice on all kinds of topics, and especially in recovery and spirituality. I never got any advice better than read that book every day. If you can't read a chapter, read a page. If you can't read a page, read a paragraph. And I still do that. And I've learned to listen to the music of Alcoholics Anonymous. The music of Alcoholics Anonymous. The words used to make me crazy. I used to get crazy when they said rigorous honesty. You know, people who don't get sober seem to be constitutionally incapable of being honest. And even people with grave emotional and mental disorders can stay sober if they have the capacity to be honest. Honest. And I'd hear it at every meeting. And I used to think, I'm just not, I don't know how honest you have to. I'm not really an honest person. I like to think I am, and I like to tell people I am, but I'm really not. And I used to think maybe I can't get sober. And I'll tell you what, I'm 18 and a half years sober, and sometimes I lie. I don't do it as much as I used to, and I only do it when I'm divinely directed to do so. You get up into double-digit sobriety. You know when God wants you to fib. New guy in here, if you're going home tonight and your wife says, honey, does this dress make me look fat? Beep, 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 beep. This is not the time for rigorous honesty. Rigorous honesty. No, I think it's the Haagen-Dazs. You know? The dress looked fine on the hanger. Let's go try it on the skinny blonde next door. If it makes her look fat, then there's something wrong with the dress. See, that's rigorous stupidity. Don't do that. I lie to waiters on a regular basis. Had to lie to a waiter tonight. We went out to dinner with some people from the committee, and Michaeline is talking Sunday, and me, and the waiter, you know, naively said, would you like anything to drink? Would you like to see the wine list? Would you like a cocktail before dinner? You know? I lied to him. You know, I said, no, thank you. You know what I'm saying? I mean, rigorous honesty. Boy, I would. I like a double Bushmills neat and a margarita back. You know, don't bring it. I'm suffering, not suffering that much, but I have a disease. It's a mental obsession coupled with a physical allergy and spiritual bankruptcy. Is that what you want in your nice restaurant, pal? You don't want to see that going off. So the good thing to do, the courteous thing to do is to just lie. No, thank you. See? And I learned that One of my favorite examples of the music of AA is when I had 30 days of continuous, real sobriety. It happened to fall on a Thursday. And the Burbank group has chip and cake night on Thursday. So I went over there to take my first honest 30-day chip. And I had enough chips to open a casino. You know, I didn't need any more chips, but I didn't have any honest ones. And they said, anybody for a 30-day chip? And I got up and took a chip. Doug, alcoholic. Hi, Doug. Sat down and felt like a member of Alcoholics Anonymous. That's just what it took for me. 30 days of continuous sobriety and a white chip in my hand, and I felt like a member. And I watched people take 60 and 90-day chips, and 6 months and 9 months chips, and a 3-year cake, and a 9-year cake, and a 21-year cake. And I was just as excited about everybody else's recovery as I was about my own. That is not who I am. I'm not excited about somebody who is ahead of me and their progress, you know. And I was, and I recognized it. And I was just high on the experience of being a member of AA. And they had a coffee break, and I started getting my coffee. And there was a guy over there who stopped me. One of these old-timers at Burbank, and he stopped me and he said, hey, congratulations on your 30 days. And I said, thanks. And he said, you know what the secret is? I said, don't drink, I guess. And he said, nah, actually drinking doesn't have that much to do with it. The whole deal here is to hang on. You think you can do that? I said, that's what I've been doing. He said, keep doing that. Walked away. I'm going to... Now I know the secret. You get 30 days, they tell you the secret. I know the secret. Now I'm looking for some newcomer that I can screw up. I share my experience, strength, and hope with. But before I could find anybody, there's a guy over at Burbank named Jim B. And he's one of these glad-handed, backslapping alcoholics. And he said, son, congratulations on that white chip. I said, thanks. And he said, you know what the secret is? I said, yeah, hang on. He said, no, let go. Okay. All right. Well, I'm hearing the music, so it's not making me totally out of my mind that the old-timers are diametrically opposed on what the secret is, because I'm hearing the music. And I know that the guy who said, hang on, is talking about keep coming back. Stay close. Stay in the middle of the herd. You don't hear that much anymore. When I was new, they used to tell me, stay in the middle of the herd. Don't get out the perimeters, and get picked off by the predators, the wildcats and the zebras and all them. I know that Jim B. told me, let go. He's talking about let go and let God. Surrender. The war is over. You lost. I'm hearing the music. If you're wondering what the hell this guy's talking about the music of Alcoholics Anonymous, I'm not talking about singing Happy Birthday. Talking about this wave of spirituality, this wave, this little wind we call God that runs through this thing, makes things all right. The music is, you know what it is? It's the laughter. It's the laughter. If you shared a laugh with us tonight, you are the music of Alcoholics Anonymous. Thanks for letting me share with you.
Sorry to interrupt your viewing. Taper Dave here. Just wanted to take a second to ask you to like and subscribe to my channel. And let me know if you like what you're listening. I've got some very good talks here, and this one's a great one. Just curious, do you think this is better than Zoom? Tell me what you think. Okay, this is how I prepare my drone for launching. I like to do it inside the cab of my truck so I'm not standing outside in the weather. To install the joysticks for control, up and down, right and left, powered on. I have an Android phone that I use to connect it to the drone with. And it's actually controlled through the iPhone, through an app. Oops, wrong way. It's actually controlled through the iPhone, or through this Android phone, through the app. It's actually controlled through the Android phone, through an app, and you connect it through this short connection right here.
Remote control connected.
Remote control's connected. pull out the drone. I have to extend the legs. Long legs extended first, then the short legs. Remove the gimbal protector. Set that aside, then power it on one short burst and one long burst. I lay it down. So I have to go to calibrate. So the drone's not connected yet. It shows you here as this drone gets disconnected, even though the remote's powered on. So the drone has to establish it's connected. So I go into the app to calibration mode. First I'll calibrate the remote controller. Start calibration. Out, in, oop, out, in, up, down, and then this little wheel is to control the gimbal. So it's calibrated. Go to gimbal calibration, start calibration, and then it calibrates the gimbal. I don't know if that shows up. The gimbal's moving all over the place. Changes, you can see it on the video. And I'm calibrated to take off. It's acquired 7 satellites at the moment. There are 26 satellites up in the sky, which it has to acquire before you can take off. So it's connected. It's got enough satellites. This is white. I can go to press this little arrow button, swipe right to take off, and it would start the motors if I slid this to the right. But I'll wait till I get outside. Don't want to do it inside.